everyone.
I'll take that.
And then Cassidy, you can start the slideshow.
Okay. Is there a certain time where you want me to like keep going? Because I just have the first slide. It's just stagnant until I change it and the song starts. Do you want to do it immediately?
Maybe
As
go ahead
soon
and
as-
put that up, right?
Yeah, put up the first one, and then everyone's coming in right now.
Great.
Nice picture.
So Cassidy, go ahead and start the slideshow at this point.
All right.
Sky dances, willows dance like women, dance like snakes. Willows dance before the mirror. Fish dance in the mirror, turtles dance, oaks dance like bears.
You're starting over?
Yeah, I don't know what I did here. Hold on.
Clouds sing like sky bears. Willows dance like women, dance like snakes. Willows dance before the mirror. Fish dance in the mirror, turtles dance. Oaks dance like bears, clouds sing like sky bears. Pines dance, they are stars. They are stars. The storm has come here to kill the grubs, to kill worms. Seeds dance, water dances. It is proud sky horses. The corn will grow and dance with us. Lances of storms are with us. New plants grow, new things ride this way. Sky dances, 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 sky dances. Sky dances, willows dance like women, dance like snakes. Willows dance before the mirror. Fish dance in the mirror, turtles dance. Oaks dance like bears, clouds sing like sky bears. Pines dance, they are stars. They are stars. Sky dances, sky dances, sky dances, sky dances, sky dances, sky dances, sky
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our online remembrance of Jean Boudreaux, known affectionately to many of us as Shewolf. I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening and to thank Cassidy Scanlon for compiling the gorgeous slideshow of pictures of Jean that came from a variety of sources, including her family, with music by Holly Near and Emma's Revolution. We've also made that slideshow available on the Sinister Wisdom website. We'll put the address in the chat at some point this evening for you to share that with friends. We have a lovely evening planned for you to honor Shewolf's life. I just have a few notes before we begin. Do keep your microphone muted during our entire gathering. We will mute you if you do not mute yourself. Technical assistance is available during the program from Cassidy Scanlon and Alexis Clements. You can private message them if you need help. Please do note that now that we've unshared the slideshow, there are different views on Zoom. You can look at the active speaker. You can have a gallery view and scroll through everyone's beautiful smiling faces as the evening proceeds. We will open the chat function about 15 or 20 minutes into the program for you to chat with us and to share written memories of Jean. We are unable to live stream to Facebook, given technical challenges I have had today, but an archived video of the evening we will put on Facebook and on YouTube. A link for both of those I'll send out to subscribers of the Sinister Wisdom email newsletter. Our plan this evening is for the program to run approximately 1 hour. At the end of the program, we will invite people to share either through the chat or by raising your hand to speak in real time to the group. Now, please sit back and enjoy fond memories of Shewolf. To begin, and Cassidy or Alexis, if you give me the thumbs up sign so that I know we're ready. To begin, I welcome Ayla Hartsong, who will sing Ancient Ones by Bebhim Took. Ayla.
Thank you, Julie. I offer this song opening. Shewolf, she was really genuinely interested in all kinds of people. Here you go. Ancient ones, shining ones, youthful ones, singing ones, dancing ones, grieving ones, laughing ones, giving ones, taking ones, sleeping ones, waking ones, fearless ones, guiding ones, loving ones, rising ones. Ancient ones, shining ones, youthful ones, silent ones, singing ones, dancing ones, grieving ones, loving ones, giving ones, taking ones, sleeping ones, waking ones, fearless ones, guiding ones, loving ones, rising ones. Ancient ones, shining ones, youthful ones, silent ones, singing ones, dancing ones, grieving ones, laughing ones, giving ones, taking ones, sleeping ones, waking ones, fearless ones, guiding ones, loving ones, rising ones.
Thank you so much, Ayla. For the next part of our program, two people are going to read from an obituary for Shewolf. The two readings will happen one right after the other. They will be by first Barbara Essrig, and then second, without an introduction, will be Corky Culver. So now I turn it over to Barbara.
In 2013, Kaden Ellison and I did Shewolf's oral history for Sinister Wisdom's issue, Landykes of the South. This was gleaned from that interview. Jean Boudreaux, better known as Shewolf in the lesbian communities, was born March 19th, 1932, on Desire Street, where the streetcars used to run in New Orleans. Both the play and the woman became legendary in their own time. Raised in New Orleans with her two brothers, Shewolf identified deeply with her Southern roots and loved to tell stories about what it was like in the 1930s and 40s in Louisiana. She spoke about fearlessly running the streets of the city at night, swimming in Lake Pontchartrain, and growing up in the Ninth Ward. She claimed to come out at 11. I had girlfriends in elementary school, high school, college, and thereafter, and I never got married. But in the 50s and 60s, there was no such thing as lesbians. What I mean is, we didn't even know that word. We didn't define ourselves. I was in love with her. She was in love with me. We didn't know anybody else. We always thought we were the only ones. What name did I have for loving a girl? It was just, magic. Shewolf went to college at the University of Louisiana, Lafayette, then to graduate school in West Virginia, where she earned a master's degree in education, psychology, and speech. She earned her doctorate in speech pathology at Case Western Reserve in Cleveland on an assistantship. One favorite story she told was this. I can remember if you went to the library to get a book on homosexuality, you had to be a psych major. So I became a psych major. You had to ask the librarian, and they had to get the key and open a cabinet at the end of a long aisle way back in the stacks. It was serious business. Now it seems weird, but at the time it seemed perfectly normal, But that's how I got to read The Well of Loneliness. After earning a PhD, Shewolf began her career at University of Arizona, Tucson, as a professor of speech therapy. There, she earned national recognition in the field. Soon, her alma mater, the University of Louisiana Lafayette, recruited her for an open position as a full professor. You might say this is when she began her feminist lesbian political life. She immediately found and started organizing the women professors to get equal pay and equal tenure. At that time, male professors were making 40% more than female professors. They also found inconsistencies concerning promotions of the female professors, with men getting tenured much quicker than the female counterparts. Her group was able to investigate this too and prove these discrepancies. And within a year or two, the university had raised women's salaries and changed the system for promotions. In 1970, when she first moved to Lafayette, she knew no one there. She started searching for and organizing lesbians in Lafayette. Visiting a newcomers group, she soon discovered that the group leader was a lesbian. They met and talked about starting a potluck group for lesbians. The woman knew 3 or 4, and they started to talk to each other. By the time it started, there was a group of 15, so they started a weekly potluck. And by the time it ended, 8 years later, there were more than 60 women. After retiring in 1985, she headed out for California and traveled back and forth many times. Before she left, she began doing research in her very organized Shewolf way to find and stay with lesbians on the road, at their homes, or on lesbian land. One of her sources for finding places was Joyce Cheney's Lesbian Land, but she wanted to do more.
Shewolf loved to get on the road. As she traveled, each lesbian home she came upon became a research trove for stories leading to the next place. From this experience, she published 6 editions of Shewolf's Directory of Women's Lands and Lesbian Communities. Her travel tales became inspiration for many connections between like-minded women who were excited to find out about each other. She also inspired more new lesbian lands, like Lake Annie Woman's Space near Melrose, Florida, and the Carefree community near Fort Myers, Florida. She was the ultimate networker and an enthusiast par excellence, full of contagious energy. Shewolf moved to Melrose here in 2002. After some years, when she realized that independent living was no longer physically possible for her, she researched dozens of retirement communities, looking for ones that were at least gay-friendly. And what she wanted too was to bring her wealth of woodworking tools to her retirement home. She settled upon Sun City Center, where she lived for the past 3.5 years until her death on April the 24th, 2020, at the age of 88. Okay, now I'm Corky, by the way. I'd like to move on from her obituary and tell a few personal experiences with her. I met Shewolf about 1993 when she arrived at my house to present her Lesbian Lands slideshow. I was interested because I had lived on several of lesbian lands myself and visited more. I was not too surprised at Jean having taken a new name. In my Landykes days, my own days, I had named myself Circle Dance. But I have to say, her choice of Shewolf was exceptionally daring. That name impressed me with her bravery for the first of many times. She said she was amazed to hear the name from her own lips and a circle as though it had come from another plane of existence. She heard the name and she accepted it. When I persuaded my girlfriend to come to a potluck at Shewolf's house, she said she expected a cabin with rock floors and rock walls, disarray, and a bunch of variety of animals running loose. Instead, she was brought to a middle-class house, and Shewolf cautioned her not to drop any bits of food on the floor because the Ginger, the little poodle, might eat them. It was flattering to the lesbians in the little village of Melrose when she chose to move here after all the places she'd seen. For this period, this particular phase of her life, she called the village community. Lesbians in Melrose, while not all living on the same piece of land, had regular outings Shewolf called Friday Fillies. And she also gathered groups for reading potlucks and mutual help with work projects. In the women's work co-op, she liked to roar along on the riding mower. Of course, then, she also loved to gather up card parties. Shewolf organized lots of events. She was totally indefatigable at creating community. Among many other things, she excelled. She was a force, joyous and cooperative, a voice for community particularly lesbian community. She was always thinking of our need for one another and the power we got when we worked and played together. May Shewolf's legacy, spirit, and ideas be shared and acted upon forever.
Thank you, Corky, and thank you, Barbara. That was lovely. We're now inviting Margie Boudreaux, who was Shewolf Jean's sister-in-law, and she's going to share some family memories. Margie.
Okay. Jean Shewolf was my late husband Rod's big sister. She was 9 years older than him, and I'll be sharing how much she meant to him throughout his life and how much she meant to me after I joined this family 40 years ago. He admired her for many reasons, but the story he told most often was how often she told him to stick with his education. She always said, whatever else happens, they can never take that away from you. We would see each other in Colorado, Louisiana, Maryland, and Florida whenever she was passing through on her journeys, or when we were on the move from one place to the other. My most vivid memory with her, other than her teaching me how not to lose too much playing poker, was when I had an interview in Baton Rouge, not far from where she lived at the time. I was able to stay with her for a few days, and one day she took me out on the bayou in a boat. I was amazed, having grown up in Arizona myself. The fun she had showing it all to me was as infectious and memorable as all the sights and impressions themselves. But she was really in her element at home in Covington and later in Florida with her woodworking workshops. She truly loved making things and also loved showing us those projects as they developed and taking us places where they were displayed. I can still see her backyard in Melrose with those huge trees and Ginger romping around with Jean's laughter echoing throughout the space. Those big open spaces in Florida and Louisiana with mysterious niches and shadows embraced and nurtured Shewolf. Jean possessed a magnificent, strong, courageous soul. She never wanted to sit still, but to move forward into new and meaningful adventures. If she saw something needed doing and no one was doing it, she found a way to do it herself, if it was humanly possible. Like when Rod was a very small child and got a tiny metal shard in his eye, and his parents didn't believe it was serious enough to see a doctor. Jean, who must have been in high school at the time, insisted he see a doctor and took him there herself. That ferociously determined side of Shewolf affected her little brother deeply from earliest childhood, affecting his values and decisions throughout his life. And through him, also my own friendship with her. Rod died this year too, in February, after a sudden illness. We had been married 40 years. Our son, John, as well as Rod's nephew, Edward, and his niece, Deborah, and Edward's 2 sons and his granddaughter are her only surviving blood relatives. I hope to personally carry forward her legacy and to help the next generations to do the same with gratitude in whatever ways I can for years to come.
Thank you so much, Margie. So meaningful. Next, we're going to hear from Jenna Weston, who's reading a message from Net Heart of Lesbian Natural Resources. Jenna?
Honor Words for Shewolf by Net Heart. One of the enduring values of women who create woman-centric and lesbian-centric space on land is radical hospitality to any woman in need of that space, dating from the times when much of this space was open women's land. Friends, lovers, traveling dykes, international visitors, touring musicians, and all kinds, culture workers, transited through the various lesbian lands, as well as urban dykes seeking wild refuge and community events. There were multiple networks on these lands through Lesbian Connection and regional newsletters, web centers, women's bookstores, and word of mouth. But Shewolf understood not only providing space herself, but the need for a visitor's guide of participating lands, much as there were urban guides to lesbian hotspots and lodging. She not only published her guidebook, but vigorously promoted it so that lesbians not connected to lesbians would find it. How many lesbians used it to find their community home, connections to land they would revisit, or inspiration to start their own land project is unknown. But what is known is that even lesbians who never hit the road felt welcomed.
Thank you so much, Jenna. Next, we are going to hear from Retha, who's not quite yet unmuted. 1 minute, Retha. Oh, Retha is now unmuted. So next, we will hear from Retha Jacobs, who joins us in sharing her memories of Shewolf, along with her cat Familiar. Retha's cat Familiar in the screen, not Shewolf's.
Yeah, he's back there on the on the bed behind me. Sorry about that. I just like to mention a few things about Shewolf and a few experiences that we shared together. I was friends with her for years. I don't remember when or how I first met her. It was so long ago. But I've stayed overnight as a guest in her house in Melrose. And we were roommates one year at Silver Threads, where she often taught women's classes. And she loved to dance, and Silver Threads provided an opportunity for her dancing. Once we drove from her home in Melrose to New Orleans, where we had a glass of freshly pressed carrot juice at a little out-of-the-way juice bar that she knew of. And then later in the day, we shared coffee and beignets on Bourbon Street. She loved cappuccino-type coffees. Starbucks Frappuccino was her favorite. And I always found her to be an extraordinary person, and she was always concerned about our women's communities. And she strove to promote community in many ways by teaching classes and promoting the lesbian community in Melrose, where she lived until she chose to go into a retirement and assisted living center in Sun City, as Corky mentioned. And when she moved in there, she became once again by her given name of Jean. And I visited her there for about 4 or 5 days. And she told me one reason she selected this facility over others is because it had a good woodworking shop, and she was an accomplished woodworker. And then laughingly, she said, "But there's so many other things to do here. I've only visited it once." And the center allowed pets, and so she was able to bring her little dog Ginger that's been mentioned, and she really loved Ginger. And a couple of months before she passed, she wasn't able to take care of Ginger and take her to the dog park or out for walks. So a friend from Melrose took Ginger and is now caring for her. And I'm sure Shewolf will be glad that Ginger has a good home now and good care. Just a couple of days before she passed, we were texting each other, and she said she had to go into quarantine And I asked her why. And she said, well, everyone over 80 years old had to be quarantined. However, I am aware that she was also communicating with at least 3 other women only a few days before her passing. So she did have contact with others and women right up until the end. She's probably best known for her directory of women's lands and lesbian communities. She single-handedly compiled, edited, printed, and distributed this resource for us. Um, she did this since the early 1990s, spending many years and much time and personal expense. She traveled to far-flung places to collect information and to document women's lands. The first edition of the directory appeared in 1994 and contained 28 lands. I've also heard 50, but Shewolf says 28. And by the 6th and final edition, it contained over 100 lands, and there were also international lands in that final edition. And what a monumental task that this was, required hours and hours of dedicated work and effort on her part. But it was such a valuable resource. It connects us and acquaints us with each other through our lands and intentional communities. It teaches us how to ask to visit lands and so forth. And I once had a young Canadian woman stay overnight with me while she was traveling across the US hitchhiking. She'd gotten my contact information from Shewolf's directory, and as we were at my house discussing how she found me, I mentioned that Shewolf was a remarkable person, and her eyes got wide and she said, "You mean Shewolf is a real person?" So just how did she come to be called Shewolf anyway? Well, Corky also touched on this, but as Shewolf related to me, many years ago, Jean was at a workshop in Miami, and during a Native American themed circle, the moderator told each woman to pick a name associated with animals or earth or nature. And as the name choosing was getting closer to her, she could think of nothing. The moderator had said that if you couldn't think of anything, just say pass. So she could think of nothing, and she had pass right on the tip of her tongue when a vision of a white wolf standing on a rock outcropping appeared to her. And out of her mouth just popped Shewolf, and she felt goosebumps. And so thus, over 30 years ago, Jean became Shewolf in the women's circles. And so I'd just like to say thank you to Shewolf for all she's given us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Retha. I'd like to remind folks that we will open up at the end for people to make comments. I'm happy to read comments from the chat function, which should be open and operating now. And I also see that one person already has their hand up to share memories. So that's Terry Baum. So Terry, you'll be first in the queue when we get to that part of the program. Now, Sibylla Hawk is going to share memories of Shewolf from Woman World. Sibylla?
Hi. Oh, and now it says Sibylla Hawk. That's amazing. It said Kathy Butler until just now. Anyway, I am Sibylla Hawk, and I knew Shewolf for I've known her and I knew her for many years. And I want to talk about workshops she did at Woman World, her land in Louisiana. I attended 2 of those workshops in the 1990s. Woman World was at the end of a dirt road in South Louisiana. There was a modest house with a great wraparound porch, and I noticed those photographs earlier. The porch wasn't there, but it was certainly there in 1996 when I first went there. And maybe that's one of the workshops that happened, making a porch. But that porch was a godsend, I'll tell you, at the first workshop, which was in March, the first workshop I went to. It was very cold a lot of the time, and we spent a lot of time on that porch. Many of our meetings were held there, and we ate our meals there. The first workshop in March of 1996 that I went to was billed as a construction workshop. Our task was to build, or at least start, a shower house. I remember our first construction project was building sawhorses. And somewhere along the line, I heard that was always Shewolf's first introduction to women building projects at her construction workshops, building sawhorses. At the shower house site, there was a platform already made, and Shewolf instructed us on how to build steps and walls. We started on that, and we finished most of the upright structure and started on adding the walls, but we did not finish it. One woman actually slept there on the shower house pad, and she made a sign saying Sandy Smith slept here. The workshop was well attended with maybe as many as 13 women. I think I was there a week with my friend Sonny Neal from St. Pete, and at that time I lived in Tampa. One of the outstanding memories of that week was a trip to New Orleans that Shewolf organized for us. And Wimmin Road was on the north side of Lake Pontchartrain, near the village of Covington. I don't think all the women went into New Orleans, but there were a couple carloads. And turn my page here. So getting that organized, and then across the long bridge, crossing Lake Pontchartrain, which is, I guess, about 24 miles, was really something. The highlight of that New Orleans visit was the Voodoo Museum, which a friend of mine just told me is still there. Sorry, lost my place. It was the Voodoo Museum was on the edge of the French Quarter and belonged to a friend of Shewolf's, Priestess Miriam. So the Priestess Miriam showed us all the displays. It was in the museum, and then there was a little shop at the back where she sold voodoo supplies, I guess you would have to say. She also took us within walking distance to the resting place of Marie Laveau in an above-ground cemetery. And I guess we had taken a sack lunch because I remember eating lunch in the cemetery. And Shewolf guided us all around New Orleans, and she was in her glory doing that. So we had many good times together at that workshop, eating our meals on the porch. And I don't remember if we helped prepare those meals. I think Shewolf provided all the food. She had a small kitchen, and she was quite particular about who was there and using her cooking equipment. We had a great time exploring the land. It was very flat, very low land, as you can imagine, in southern Louisiana, and it was very cold that year, as I've already mentioned. I remember that in order to shower, Shewolf had us take the black water hoses and lay them out in the sun when it was a sunny day, and the water would heat up in the hose. Then we would stand out there all together and squirt ourselves off with the hoses. I think it ended up that she let 2 women a day come in the house and take showers because it was pretty cold standing out there on the lawn. The next workshop I attended at Wimmin Road was in 1999, and I was presenting information about Y2K. Excuse me. A group of women, including Jody Jew Dyke and Kim Rivers, and Sheila Ann, who many of you know, who was healthy at that time, and a few others were giving presentations about separatist theory and politics. Shewolf at that time was losing her hearing, and it was extremely difficult for her to participate. It's my understanding that Shewolf sponsored other construction workshops at Wimmin World. At least the shower house was completed when I went back there in the 3 years after the first workshop I attended. I've heard Shewolf say that many women came to Wimmin World during the years she was there in residence, and she longed for a community to come together, but that did not happen. Most women stayed only a short time and then moved on. She also had a dream of training construction crews of 2, 3, or 4 lesbians who would travel to lesbian communities to assist with building projects. I'm not sure if that dream ever materialized. Shewolf was not only a mover and a shaker, but the ultimate educator with lessons for all of lesbians. Shewolf, definitely one of my sheroes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's lovely. Again, you can put comments in the chat. Next, Pelican Lee is joining us to share her memories. Pelican.
So Shewolf went on her first trip to California sometime in the 1980s. She was still a professor, but had the summer off. She threw a mattress and a pot and a cooler in the back of her truck and drove out to California, where she had a friend she wanted to visit. She had heard about lesbian lands through the book, Lesbian Land, and wanted to visit every one that she could find. She was drawn to women's land, that lifestyle, and simple living. This was before the time of computers and email, so networking was by written letters and then word of mouth. And she wrote letters. If somebody wrote back, she would write again and get more information. She said she spent a lot of money on postage, but stamps were much cheaper then. Phone calls were too expensive, so maybe you'd call only if you really had to. Women would tell her about other places to visit, and when she was at one place, they would tell her about another place down the road. Her second trip west, she had a pop-up tent trailer that she pulled behind her truck. She spent a lot of time in Oregon at all the women's lands there because she couldn't find any in California. She got up one morning in Oregon, and it took her 3 hours before she could leave, waiting for the dew to dry off of the tent. She decided right then and there that she could not put up with that. Her friend who was traveling with her bought the tent trailer from her right then, and she went back and planned a trip all the way around Florida. She bought her casita then, a very small trailer that she pulled behind her truck. On her travels, she took slides of every women's land she visited. Pretty soon she was showing her slides and made a slideshow with title slides for each place, making it pretty. She also went to the women's RV parks, 2 in Arizona, 1 in Washington State, and 1 in Florida, and included them in the slideshow. I met Shewolf at Landykes gatherings in the late 1990s and early 2000s when she was showing her slideshows there. And she was looking for someone to pass her slideshow on to. Since I did networking and gave workshops about women's lands, I said I would take it. I saw that some of the lesbian lands were missing and some of the slides needed updating. So I added a bunch more slides. And I used the slideshow as the centerpiece of intensive workshops that I gave at Michigan Women's Music Festival in 2004 and 2005. And I also showed it at several Landykes gatherings. I still have the slideshow and the projector that she gave me too, although it's again outdated. And I wanted to read a note that she sent me 2 days before she died. It was dated. I had sent her a birthday card, and this is what she sent back. She said, I am in an assisted living facility now, and life is hard. No fun, no money, no anything. I lost my last brother a week ago, and that's it. It looks like I can't do anything physical now, even walk or bend. But we'll be alive a few more years, in invalid and dependent on anyone around. They are feeding me, and I have a place to sleep when I can, and that is good. Please have a good one while you can. Be thankful for every day you can. Breathe too.
Thank you, Pelican. That's really beautiful. Next, we have Kate Ellison sharing her memories of Shewolf. Kate?
Hi. Shewolf called ahead to Spiral Land in Kentucky, saying she would be bringing her casita and needed a flat place with electricity to set it up. Geez, flat's a problem, I thought. But we worked it out, and she was gruffly cheerful about the tiny patch I found for her beside the cistern and driveway and the very long extension cord. She must have faced this before, making do on the fly, asking for what she needed, and accepting what could be given. She had a big smile on a face that had seen too much sun. Her hair was thin like mine, but permed into a fro for easy care on the road she inhabited. Her first visit to Spiral was for the big Landykes gathering we were hosting in '99 or 2000. It was a stop along the way for her, a road that took her to so many of the distant rural places lesbians found to live in community. She asked a million questions. She listened and had a million stories about the women she met, never malicious. She enjoyed meeting us, all of us, and she enjoyed playing poker. She was our troubadour, carrying the news from one place to the next, singing the praises of what each community was accomplishing. Our lands were so remote, and often we didn't know the other women who lived remotely too. She knew us all. She sat in on all the meetings, and we let her because she was trustworthy. She was careful not to spill the beans nor gossip about any of the communities she visited. She was as likely to say, "Why, what did you hear?" to seemingly agree without adding to the controversy. Her role was to bring women together on the land, to invite and connect. She called, wrote, cajoled, and persisted to get all the lesbian land groups to write their entries for the book, Shewolf's Directory of Women's Lands and Lesbian Communities. The first one was published in 1993, and she kept up her networking through the 6th edition in 2016. Other than Finding Maze or Lesbian Connection, which occasionally published a listing, there was no other way than her directory to find our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. We are putting up in the comments the link to the Sinister Wisdom page where the slideshow from the beginning is available for download. And we're also putting up the link to where Sinister Wisdom 98 on lesbian lands that has the interview with Shewolf in it is available, as well as Joyce Cheney's book, Lesbian Land, which we do have available through Sinister Wisdom as well. Our next person sharing her reflections is Sabina Dyke. Sabina.
Hi, I met Shewolf in the fall of, can you hear me? I met Shewolf in the fall of 2007 in Melrose, Florida. I was planning a road trip around the country to possibly relocate to warmer areas, which I'm doing again. And I had been a subscriber to Maze magazine and had heard about Shewolf's directory, which I mail ordered from her. When we met, Shewolf and I connected deeply through our shared experience and vision about lesbian lands. My experience being from co-creating 2 lesbian lands in Europe, hers from years of traveling around the US and having her own land, Woman World. Her dream of living on lesbian land had never stopped, like mine, and so I and her reveled in discussions of possibilities of creating something in our area. By then I had relocated to Gainesville to create some kind of place where lesbians could live together and age in place, and where there would be a fully equipped workshop. I remember her seriously investigating a monastery nearby for that purpose. One of Shewolf's main achievements was her creation of Shewolf's Directory of Women's Lands and Lesbian Communities, which she had created by traveling the country, visiting and documenting the lesbians on different lands. These directories, a total of 6 between 1993 and 2014, now document the rich history of the feminist Landykes community who was and is trying to create utopia outside of patriarchy. When Shewolf decided to hand over or sell the directory maybe 5 years ago, I was the first lesbian she approached. I felt honored and excited but at that point was not up to the challenge to change my life enough to fulfill the call this would be. So heavy-hearted I declined. And Shewolf put out a nationwide request and eventually found a lesbian who planned to continue the directory. However, she never did. After some time of traveling and networking on different lesbians the last couple of years, I was approached by a friend of a friend and asked if I would be interested to take over Shewolf's directory from the woman who originally had it, from Shewolf. I immediately agreed. It took nearly a year, but as of last summer, I have the copyright and plan to continue with it. Besides the copyright and 2 copies of the directory, no further material was handed to me. Not even computer files, mailing lists, nothing. But I hope to recover maybe some of that from her executor. So what are my plans for the directory? It is slowly evolving, a work in progress. The current directory is significantly outdated. So during my travels, I've been collecting photos, legal structures, information, and stories from these lands. I'm thinking to do a renewed version of the directory, but maybe also having some kind of database. I'm also hoping to collaborate with MAIS, Lesbian Natural Resources, both of whom are documenting lesbian lands, as well as other lesbians who already offered their support. And I'm committed to keep Shewolf's directory alive, maybe under a different name. Shewolf's directory is a slice of her story, and the lands she described are partly from a bygone era. Some of the lands are lost forever or are falling into the queer trap, while at the same time, young dykelings are searching for meaning and are rediscovering the old feminist lesbian values and yearning to be on the land, in female sovereign space. This is a time for easing over the existing lands to younger lesbians. And I see renewing and updating Shewolf's directory as part of my contribution to protect the existing lands, promote a feminist lesbian future, and to continue in Shewolf's spirit.
Thank you so much, Sabina, for that tribute and for the work that you're doing to carry on her legacy. We have 2 more parts of the formal program, and then we're going to open it up for other sharing. Now, I'm so pleased to welcome Alexis Clements. She's the director of the wonderful film All We've Got, about lesbian spaces. And she interviewed Shewolf as a part of that film and is now going to share some footage that was not included in the film from her interview with Shewolf. Alexis.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you to everybody who's shared. It's so nice to get a picture of Shewolf beyond the little bit that I knew her. I'll just say before I share the clip, the film that I made, as Julie said, is about LGBTQ women's spaces and communities around the US. Unfortunately, I was not able to include everything that I captured in the film, and unfortunately Shewolf's interview didn't make it in, but I've decided to make a short film focused exclusively on Shewolf. I'm gonna put a little text in the chat now. If you have photos or video or film of Shewolf that you would be open to me using in that film, I would love for you to use the email address that I put there to get in touch and let me know, because I would love to be able to include those materials in the film. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. And I just ask everybody to remember that this is a work in progress. And so there are going to be some choppy edits. But really, I just wanted to bring Shewolf's spirit into the room from 2014.
Ginger, just wait a minute. Just wait a minute. All right, put your feet to that side. There you go. Now she's going to sit right here. Come on. Sit, stay. Yeah. Yeah. You don't let her get on your lap because she's not allowed. All right, everybody ready?
Yep. Ready.
All right, now I'm going to back up this way. This is our physical therapy center, which is very good. This is the florist. Another bargain basement place, the dentist, the eye doctors over here. This is another gallery right here. Oh, let me go this way so you can see the rest of it. Okay. Our tour's gonna be over in about 5 minutes.
That's all right. It's been a nice tour.
It's a small place.
It's been a nice tour.
Yeah. Well, I'm Shewolf. I have been Shewolf for the last 25 years. I was born Jean Boudreaux. I received my doctorate, so then became Dr. Jean Boudreaux.
How's it going?
What are you doing out in the sun?
Talking to this lady.
I love your yellow flowers.
Thank you.
I'm jealous. Hey, I think we ought to go on that cruise. I just sent her the information on the Olivia cruise because I'm going on the Poker cruise in December.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I was born in New Orleans on Desire Street, March 19th, 1932. I live here in Melrose, Florida, outside of Gainesville, in this lovely little crossroad, which isn't really officially a town, but it's a fantastic little place. This is where our coffee shop used to be, in that little building.
The thing that has the books on it?
Yeah, that used to be the lesbian coffee shop, and it was great. As I say, we lost it 4 or 5 years ago. Don't let her out.
Oh, no?
No. I'll tell her when she's under my command.
These trees are just beautiful.
You like my oak trees? Yeah.
They're just beautiful.
Those are live oaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Ginger. Behave yourself. Behave yourself. Yes. I've been here for about 10 years. I bought this house about 12 years ago and sold my place in Louisiana. Now, I came from a women's land in Louisiana, which I owned, which was called Woman World. What we did there for 17 years was to teach lesbians mostly to do basic carpentry so they could go back to their lands and build houses and build cabins and just do basic carpentry. You want a picture of my mother?
Yeah.
This was my mother, and that tells you who she is. That's just who she was.
Did she and your father always live on the farm?
They never lived there. My dad bought the place and intended to retire. He died 2 years after he retired and never got to the farm. My mother didn't want to live out there. She lived in New Orleans.
Got it.
And so I bought the place from my dad and paid my mother for it over the next 20 years or so.
Got it.
And I paid it off. It took me 35 years to pay it off, but it gave my mother an income. It was a gorgeous 100 acres of oak trees and pine trees and water and grass, and it was just gorgeous. And it was 40 miles out of New Orleans. I was teaching in Lafayette, 100 some odd miles away. I used to teach till Friday about 4 o'clock, and my girlfriend Randy worked at the same place, and so we'd get off and we'd go out there. Friday night we'd start working, and Sunday night we'd go back to our teaching jobs, and so we put in 2 days of hard labor on the land.
What was your intention in working on that land at that point?
To live on it. She and I were going to live on it, and we had no idea about women's land whatsoever. We were just out there doing our thing. As I have since found out, tons and tons of lesbians have all had the same idea.
Thank you, Alexis. It was really wonderful to see that interview. And thank you for your plan and commitment to do a short film about Shewolf. I'm sure everyone is very excited. We'll have a final song by Ayla and then open up for a little sharing among the 110 people we have gathered here this evening. So next, Ayla Hart Song will conclude the formal part of our program with Alex Dobkin's The Woman in Your Life.
The woman in your life will do what she must do to comfort you and calm you down and let you rest now. The woman in your life, she can rest so easily. She knows everything you do because the woman in your life is you. The woman in your life knows simply what is true. She knows the simple ways to touch, to take you home, make you whole now. The woman in your life, she can touch so easily. She knows everything you do because the woman in your life is you. And who knows more about your story, about your struggles in the world? And who cares more to dress your weary shoulders than the woman in your life? She's trying to come through, a woman's voice with messages of woman's feelings. The woman in your life, she can feel so easily. She knows everything you do because the woman in your life is you. The woman in your life, she's someone to pursue. She's patient and she's waiting and she'll take you home now. The woman in your life, she can wait so easily. She knows everything you do because the woman in your life is you. Because the woman in your life, the woman in your life, the woman in your life is you.
Thank you so much, Ayla. I see some people are sharing in the comments. I'll look at those and read some of the comments out for everyone. But first, Terry Baum has her hand up. So I'm going to have Terry share. And I'm hoping that's what that meant, Terry.
Yes, it did. Yes. I didn't know Shewolf, but her guide to women's land made a huge difference in my life. In 2007, my friend and colleague, I'm in theater, and Carolyn Myers was my, we collaborated, but we lived 400 miles apart, so we really couldn't do theater together. We decided to take a vacation. And I looked in Shewolf's Guide to Women's Land, and I saw, this was in the winter. Carolyn was teaching, so it was the winter vacation time. And I saw the listing for Casa Feminista in the hills of northern New Mexico. And this was run by Sonia Johnson and her partner, Jade. So when I called to make a reservation at Casa Feminista, which I only knew about because of Shewolf's directory, it turned out that the woman who answered was Sonia Johnson, who was a great lesbian separatist visionary. And I said, are you, and she ran for president in the 80s. She's an incredible person. I said, are you the Sonia Johnson? And she said, yes, I am. So then I said, Carolyn, after I made the reservation, I said, Carolyn, it's Sonia Johnson. We're going to be staying at an inn run by Sonia Johnson. And Carolyn said, well, of course we have to perform for her. So Carolyn and I put together a show, new things, old things, improvisations based on suggestions from the audience. And it was this incredible hit with the 15 women who showed up for it. And we did it on Christmas Eve, and then we had to do another show on New Year's Eve. And Carolyn and I said, well, this is what we have to do for the rest of our lives, is perform together. And since those shows in Casa Feminista, we became the Crackpot Crones, and we have been doing theater together. And this truly, when I think about it, never would have happened without Shewolf's Guide to Women's Land. So even though I didn't know her, I really just wanted to come to this memorial service and say that. And a great gratitude for the work she said, which she did, which was so important in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And for those on the call, if you don't know Terry's incredible plays, you should check them out and also follow her great blog. The most recent blog post was about her work with Bella Abzug. So I think if you Google Baum's blog, you will find it, and maybe she'll put a link for us in the chat. I want to raise up Diana's comment from the chat. I never met Shewolf, but was touched that sometime around 2010 or 2012, I called her and she called me back. She invited me to come and visit the Melrose community. She was hoping women would move there and buy the very inexpensive houses available there. I'm sorry now I never made the trip down to meet her. And also from the chat, there is a link for Alexis's movie that is in here, allwe'vegot.org. So you can do that. And Jenny, maybe Cassidy, if you would look up Terry Baum's blog and put a link in the chat, that would be helpful. Jenny's asking for it. I would do it, but I'm on the iPad due to my technical difficulties.
Julia, I'm doing it on the chat.
Fantastic, thank you. I feel technically a little hobbled. I don't see anyone else raising their hand. Is there anyone else who would like to share a memory? Sabine is asking how we can get the links after the program is over. I will compile, Zoom gives us a great little download of all of the chat. And so I will compile all of the links and they will go into an email that goes out to everyone. And I'll also put them on the sinisterwisdom.org Shewolf page. That's sinisterwisdom.org. So Terry has her blog up there. Edie Daly tells us that Feathers, Bed, and Breakfast was in the first directory. And now Barbara Esther has her hand raised. Is that correct?
Yes, I wanted to do a sharing.
I just share, Barbara.
All righty. Meeting Shewolf, I've met her at something special, and she had the slideshow on the lesbian lands. It was just amazing because I had read Mays and I had heard about lesbian lands, and she had this amazing show, and I got to just have that touch of seeing who she was by connecting and talking and hearing her. She just loved to share information. That was my first hint. She loved to share information about the land. I met her again. I met her again at OLOC, regional conference in Columbia, South Carolina. And she divided our room. She was one of the persons to introduce everybody. And she was so vibrant and so interested in having all of us connect. And it was just exciting. It was exciting. She made me feel excited about it. She had anyone who had a pocket knife sit on one side of the room. She had anyone who had a purse sit on this side of the room. She was doing a whole intro into her lesbian history, her story, what she knew, because she was my elder. She's my elder. And we learned from her experience in the bar days in Louisiana. She just amazing, loving to talk. I heard her tell me her stories. She's telling me her stories in Melrose. I visited her at her home, Melrose, as well. And she had shown me her workshop. Same thing, a tour, just the same tour, Alexis, is down the road. This is Melrose. This is where you could get a house. This is where you could do the little community, and information that she had, and just the heart. I just want to say the heart that she had, if I can have some of that heart, I admired her so for her heart and her passion about lesbians and lesbian land and her own life as a lesbian. I can't say any more right now. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Katie A, I am now unmuting. I think that I am unmuting you. Yes. And you had your hand up to speak in the queue. So Katie A, please join us.
Sure. It's really good to be here. And, you know, like a lot of people have said, I mean, I never met Shewolf, but I met her through the Lesbian Lands book. And the story that I will always remember. So my partner and I in 2014, I guess, we had gone to Michigan, we had gone to a land in Virginia, and we knew that there were other lands out there, but we didn't know how to find them, right? We're like, we figure there must be something, you know, and we're in our early 30s at this point. So we did what any good lesbian would do, and we Googled it. And we couldn't find anything. But what we came across was a website that basically said, I'm Shewolf. This is a website for my art and carvings, and there's also a book that I published. I don't know how to use a website, but if you send me $16 to a PO box in Florida, I'll mail you a book. And so we're like, all right, whatever. We're not going to mail us a book, but cool. So we sent $16 to a PO box in Florida. And, you know, 3 weeks later, we get a book to Virginia that was the directory. And that was amazing because that was the summer we spent in Virginia, and we used that book. And then we also used, the Lesbian Connection Dyke list, right? And we like used those two things, and we traveled across the US, spending time in women's land. And that was really the beginning of my sort of introduction to this wider community. And so I think I will just forever be grateful for that, and for Shewolf, who didn't know how to run a website, but who knew how to mail me a book. So I miss her because I think we're, you know, obviously we're losing a lot of, we're not losing, right? We're carrying on the memory, but I'm just sad that she's gone. But I'm glad that there are 104 people on this thing, and it's amazing. So I'm grateful that you all are doing this, and I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Katie. I got a message that Marianne and Drea want to speak. I believe, Marianne, that I have unmuted you. Oh, it's not.
That's working.
You got it? Is that, and
Yeah, I think so. You can hear me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've known Shewolf a long time. We had an intentional community, my partner Firewalker here in Kansas City, called Womantown in the late 80s. And once Shewolf heard about it, she was driving from Louisiana, coming up to Womantown, saying, I'm not going to really live in the urban environment, but come to Woman World or come to Louisiana. So from then on, we started connecting on women's land, and she was, wherever she landed, she went to Melrose, and she was writing us like, buy a place down here. So we went down there and did the tour and met all the wonderful folks down there, and all saw the little houses. And yeah, we talked about it a lot, you know, being with her. We went to Sun City Center and spent the night. We spent the night in Melrose too with her. And so Drea loved the shop. Tell them about the shop.
She was a hoot. So when we first connected, it was all about the tools and how we could help each other build. And that just carried through the 25, 30 years that we've known her. And one of the last things she said to me, she says, I'm donating my whole shop to this place so that they can take care of my tools. And it's just amazing. She was just such a dynamic woman, and she was so determined to just keep pushing the lesbians forward and educating as far as to how to take care of yourself. And yeah, she's quite the inspiration. She spoke at our 25th wedding anniversary, and when she strutted in the room, it was like, here's Shewolf. So it's just, you know, she was a unique, wonderful dyke that she will definitely be missed in our circle.
Yeah, we loved her sense of community.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much. I have S.W. Bodie, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, but I believe I have just unmuted you, S.W. Bodie, for you to share.
Okay, am I being heard?
You are being heard.
My username is S.W. Bodie, but y'all, those of you who know me, I'm Worth Bodie. And I met Shewolf in sometime around 2011. Jenna Weston and I were partners in living in North Carolina. And Jenna was part of the Landykes email listserv, and Shewolf sent out this email all over the country and say, y'all come to Melrose. We've got a beautiful budding lesbian land down here called Melrose Springs. So we decided to go down to Melrose and check it out, and we rode around that little subdivision. It was really cute, and but decided to look around at other land while we were down there. And it turned out that we found land on Lake Annie. And Jenna and I established Lake Annie Woman Space in 2011. And thanks to Shewolf's inspiration. And so our address was Hawthorne, which was about 7 or 8 miles south of Melrose. And there were lots of parties at Shewolf's house and poker games and all kinds of things. And I remember visiting Shewolf a lot at her house and watched her as she aged and losing her physical abilities and looking around to try to find a retirement home and finally moving down to Sun City. In January of 2019, I called Shewolf and asked to visit. And she said, oh, sure, come on down. And so I drove the 2 or 3 hours from Gainesville down to Sun City, and she was so gracious. I believe that she was a quintessential Southern gentlewoman. She really knew how to pour on the Southern charm. And as other people have mentioned, she was always wanting to be of assistance. She had a wonderful time showing me around Sun City and took me to lunch, and I had a free lunch in the dining hall, and we got in her golf cart and she was driving like crazy around Sun City. You know, Sun City is a big retirement community. It must be, 10 or 12 little subdivisions in there. And old people can drive their golf carts on the main roads. So everybody else has to watch out for the old folks that are driving their golf carts. And Shewolf almost ran a red light. And then she realized and she slammed on the brakes. And, here you're in a golf cart and there's no windows or anything. It was just so much fun. And she was just driving like mad on the other side of Sun City and wanted to show me where another facility that she was hoping to move to because it had assisted living. At the time I saw her in January of 2019, she was still in independent living, and she knew that her physical condition was deteriorating. But I had such a lovely time. And at the time I was looking around for where in the world I would live. Jenna and I split up, and I left Lake Annie. And so she said, you should come back down here to Sun City. There are a few dykes down here, and they got a good workshop. And I just really enjoyed that visit. And several months later, I tried connecting with her, but she was very hard of hearing, as someone else said. I left her a message on her phone. I don't know that she ever retrieved it. I sent her an email. I really wanted to stay in touch with her, but we lost contact. But that memory I have the last time that I was with her was just a precious memory. That's it.
Thank you so much. I have 2 comments to share from the chat. Then I'm going to do some thank yous, and we'll do a little closing for our evening here. Charlotte says, I first met Shewolf at Golden Threads in Provincetown. She gave her slideshow, and some of the women were expecting much more elegant places. And Jean Taylor says, good day, dear ones, from Melbourne, Australia. I used her guide and visited lesbian lands in the US, Europe, Japan. I know lesbians here who've been active on land in Australia. I greet and love you and honor Shewolf. And Jean says the message from Australia is actually from Artie Tibby. And then there's some more discussion. Finally, Elena says, I sent away for the Shewolf directory in 2007. I was 21. She is the reason I found the Landykes in Oregon, and now they are my chosen family. Her directory changed my life. Thank you, Shewolf. So I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. This has been a really wonderful gathering of folks. I want to send out a special thank you to all of our speakers who prepared comments and shared memories about Shewolf, We will be running a full obituary in the fall issue of Sinister Wisdom, along with some fabulous photos that are from the slideshow. I want to especially thank Rose Norman, who really was the organizing force behind this event and worked on the entire program this evening. She's a board member at Sinister Wisdom, and I am so grateful to collaborate with her and work with her. Thank you to Cassidy and Alexis for your technology support this evening, and thank you again, Alexis, for the incredible film. Thanks again for everyone for coming tonight. It's been a pleasure to share the space and these memories of Shewolf. I would be remiss if I did not encourage everyone to subscribe to Sinister Wisdom and to support our community work so that we can continue to do it. Our plan at this point, and I'm realizing, Cassidy, we did not test this out. Our plan is to play the song Sky Dances one more time in its entirety, so that everyone can scroll through the attendees and wave at people and enjoy the space a little bit longer. The song is 3 minutes and 50 seconds. And at the conclusion of the song, I will turn off the Zoom meeting, ending our magic for this evening. But I hope everyone will take the magic and Shewolf's magic out with them into the world. I thank you all for all you do for women. Cassidy?
I'm working on it. Let's see here. Dances, willows dance like women, dance like snakes. Willows dance before the mirror. Fish dance in the mirror, turtles dance, oaks dance like bears, clouds sing like sky bears, pines dance, they are stars, they are stars. The storm has come here to kill the grubs, to kill worms. Seeds dance, water dances. It is proud sky horses. The corn will grow and dance with us. Lances of storms are with us. New plants grow, new things ride this way. Sky dances, 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 sky dances. Sky dances, willows dance like women, dance like snakes. Willows dance before the mirror. Fish dance in the mirror, turtles dance. Oaks dance like bears, clouds sing like sky bears. Pines dance, they are stars. They are stars. Sky dances, sky dances, sky dances, sky dances, sky